Excellent.
All right.
Just looking at prices done. Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
A bit lower than Mike, mate. Yeah, that's good.
Opening statement.
Bryce, the building and construction sector is one of the most important sectors to the state economy. It employs tens of thousands of Queenslanders and is, of course, so very vitally important to the Sunshine Coast. It is one of the biggest employers on the coast, and statewide it's worth about $45 billion. Now, the building industry not only builds our homes, it not only builds our offices, it builds our roads, our vital infrastructure, and indeed it builds our future. Now, on Monday, as you recall, I made the local media aware of an impending problem with the certification sector of the building industry. On the 2nd of July, we'll see the last remaining professional indemnity insurer exit from the market. Now, we know that professional indemnity insurers are exiting and have exited from the market because they perceive that their risk is too great arising out of the combustible cladding and non-conforming products, which led to the Grenfell fire disaster, which resulted in 72 deaths in the UK. We know that we've experienced those sort of problems in Melbourne, and we're also experiencing problems in various states and territories around this country. This is an endemic problem in Queensland regarding the quality of construction work and the quality of certification work. Now, it would be wrong for me to suggest that, and for anybody to suggest, that the problems that we're experiencing are as a result of the negligence of just private certifiers, or to suggest that private certifiers are indeed the problem. The private certification system has been around since 1998, so 21 years. In that 21 years, they have demonstrated, by and large, a system where private certifiers are working in conjunction in a dual model system that's also worked in by local government, that's worked very well for Queenslanders. There was a problem with local governments having this authority purely so that local governments only provided a certification system, and that's why in 1998 the private certification system was born. Now, with the private certification model as we now know it, we're seeing professional indemnity insurers withdrawing from the market, and that means that as of the 2nd of July and rolling out over the next 12 months, private certifiers will lose their professional indemnity insurance. Now, under Queensland law, they're required to have that professional indemnity insurance in order for them to practice. So no professional indemnity insurance, then they're going to have to hand back their licence. Now, when they have to hand back their licence, and 80 of them will be doing that in July alone, there are only around about a bit over 300 private certifiers operating in the private sector in businesses today. So over the next 12 months, there'll be less and less private certifiers having to do more and more work. That's not good enough. What we face, the very real prospect of, is small businesses not being able to get projects out of the ground. Now, without private certification, without building certification, projects can't be approved. They can't be signed off on by these certifiers so that contractors and subcontractors and suppliers can get paid. Many contracts tie that certification process in with the ability of builders to be able to get paid for the works having reached a certain stage. So we see the very real prospect that everybody from an excavator operator right through to the painter and everywhere in between losing their jobs. Now, this is not scaremongering, this is very real. Industry bodies have been talking with the Minister about this for over 12 months. The Minister convened a meeting yesterday with industry stakeholders to try and get a resolution to this issue. Now, I understand that nothing has come from that meeting. The Minister is not prepared to intervene. The Minister is not prepared to make changes to the legislative process, the legislative scheme that licenses certifiers. And as a result, from the 2nd of July, small businesses across Queensland will start to see a loss in business. They will lose their businesses. Now, whether it's a concrete pump operator that's paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for his truck and his mortgage payments on that, whether it's for an excavator operator, whether it's for a carpenter or a bricklayer, whether it's for the engineer or the architect, all of these people face a very real prospect from the 2nd of July that their businesses will be shut down. That is not good enough. It is not good enough for Mr. Brenni to sit on his hands, just as it has not been good enough for him to have sat on his hands with the report that I provided to government back in October of 2015. Now, I provided a report which identified 122 recommendations to clean up the building industry. This is not just certification problems, this is building problems. Today, there is no requirement on a builder or a subcontractor to undertake any form of continuing professional development. That's not good enough. There needs to be stronger disciplinary process for those that break the rules. All of these recommendations that I made called for a greater accountability across the board for all involved in the building industry. This is not an issue which is confined to building certifiers. Building certifiers should not be made the scapegoat here. They have done, by and large, a great job over the last 21 years. Yes, there are problems, but the state government has sat on its hands and done nothing. Now, the Minister announced that he would be relying upon the release of a report prepared by PricewaterhouseCoopers. Now, he apparently relies on this report to say that there will be enough certifiers in the industry to not see a shutdown. Well, industry players are saying to me that that is not the case. If we're seeing 80 private certifiers can't get their professional indemnity insurance in July alone, Blind Freddie would tell you that there's going to be problems into the future. I'm calling upon Mr. Brenni to release that report of PricewaterhouseCoopers. This is a very important report. It should be made public. The building industry has a right to know what PricewaterhouseCoopers have said, but more importantly, they should have a right to know what their terms of engagement were. What were they asked to look at to make these recommendations that they have made? Now, Mr. Brenni has sat on his hands for 4.5 years in relation to this issue. It's not good enough for tens of thousands of small business people to be facing losing their businesses that they've worked so hard for. Mr. Brenni should lose his job. Mr. Brenni should resign today. He has overseen a failure of this building industry marketplace today. He needs to resign, and if he doesn't resign, then the Premier should sack him and appoint someone that will do the job.
The Premier is speaking today, and we will be putting it to the Premier as to whether she would consider sacking the Minister. Now, calling for the head of a minister is a big deal. I've asked you before on other issues whether the Minister should resign, and you've said that it's the first time that I'd like to hear that recently for the head of a minister at a state level. Now, with this PricewaterhouseCoopers report, what worries you about that report? Because obviously PricewaterhouseCoopers are reputable. What worries you about the contents of their report?
Well, I worry about anything that I can't see. I worry about anything where a government doesn't disclose what should be a publicly disclosable document. Now, I understand that governments should have the opportunity to respond to reports. It didn't respond to my report, I might say, back in 2014. But governments should have an opportunity to respond ordinarily. But in this case, time is of the essence. Building contractors face the very real prospect of losing their jobs from the 2nd of July 2019. There is no time to waste here. We need to see that report. We need to know what the recommendations of that report are. Mr. Brenni, you cannot hang on to this report. You cannot suggest for a second that it's in the public interest that this report not be released. Tens of thousands of people's jobs rely upon this issue. Release the report, and if you don't release the report, well, you really need to resign.
So, given that it doesn't look like any changes are going to be made, when are we going to start to see, in your opinion, we're going to start to see the impacts?
We'll start to see the impacts from the 2nd of July. I'm advised that around 80 private certifiers their professional indemnity insurance falls due in July. If they don't get their professional indemnity insurance, and there's only one player left in the market that is withdrawing on the 2nd of July, if they don't get their professional indemnity insurance, they are required by law to effectively hand their licence back to the Queensland Building and Construction Commission. So out of 300 odd private certifiers, 80 will no longer be able to practice in July, and there'll be many more in the months to come, to the point where within 12 months there'll be no private certifiers.
Why is it that you're the only person that seems to have picked up on this?
Well, I imagine it's because of my involvement having prepared the report in 2014. Sometimes you've got to scream from the rooftops to take the interest of governments and the media, but you know, this is a vitally important issue which will impact upon the lives of small business people. Now, you know, Mick Brenni doesn't get small business. He comes from the union movement. He doesn't understand what it's like to lie awake at night worrying about how you're going to pay for your workers and your apprentices, and how you're going to make your tax bill and your suppliers' bills. He doesn't understand that. But that is the daily routine, the daily risk, the daily problems that small business people experience every single day. And look, it's probably too much to ask of Mr. Brenni come from the union movement.
If he doesn't resign, what does he need to do?
Well, look, he needs to solve this problem. He needs to intervene. He can't just keep trying to blame anybody but himself, as he has done, as the Labor Party continues to do. They have sat on this failure for effectively 4.5 years. If they had read my report, they would have seen this coming. They would know that this is going to be an issue. Why they've done nothing? Well, those are questions that you should best address to Mr. Brenni. But he needs to intervene. He needs to make a decision. He needs to take ownership of this problem, because at the moment he's trying to blame everybody else but himself.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? Thank you very much.
Thank you.